Welcome back to a further episode of Men's Inner Health with Mark Randall. In this conversation, I'd like to explore letting go, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Letting go is not an easy thing for us men to do because we tend to over-rely on the neurocortex of our brain, the thinking brain, the conscious brain. We overthink, we overanalyze, we dwell. And letting go is not an easy space. It takes practice to learn to let go physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. One of the main tools that I've learnt in the ability to let go is meditation, mindfulness. Mindfulness comes from the practice of meditation. Meditation is the scaffolding from which we become or establish and have the ability to have more mindfulness. Learning to let go, how do we do it? Instead of overthinking, dwelling, ruminating, how do we come into a deep space of letting go? Silencing the mind. It's not always easy to let go because difficulties arise in life, in our interpersonal relationships with family, partners, friends. When these difficulties arise, we've all got issues, we've all got mental health issues. They'll some days be better than others. But the opportunity to let go, it's a new practice. It's a practice particularly for men. It's a new practice of letting go at all levels, at all realms of our psyche, both physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Now, one of the difficulties in this mix of those four realms is the emotional side of life. Yep, sometimes our emotions can get really triggered. We can feel disrespected in conversations if we're not being heard, or our values and our belief systems are not being aligned with. That can hurt. Or sometimes there's old memories, old traumas that sit inside our psyche. Generally, from my perspective, they sit in the heart, that delicate, fragile part of ourselves, but deep down our heart is a deeper place in our heart, and the language that I've ascribed to this, it's the unconditional love, or the soul mindfulness of our being in the model, a head-heart model, which is on the board. I'm not sure whether you can see it. Deep down in that deepest part of our heart, through the practice of meditation, the practice of mindfulness, which is basically trying to silence the overthinking brain, we do have the ability to access a deep space within where we are able to let go. If we can't let go, instead of dwelling on the stuff, ruminating, overthinking it, what would it mean for us men to learn to emotionally explore the depth of this wound or this hurt that it's come back up out of the rabbit hole, and we're thinking about it again. It's grinding the gears again intellectually. We can't stop thinking about it. If we can't stop thinking about it, maybe then that hurt has got some emotional charge to it. It might have emotional charge in the here and now, or maybe that emotional charge stems sort of right back into the earlier parts of our lives in our childhood. It's not uncommon that we tend to, in interpersonal relationships, can attract the opposites attract, so there's going to be differences. But it's funny how our psyche can work really unconsciously, that we can attract partners that are going to, not intentionally, But maybe unintentionally the universe has provided this opportunity in interpersonal relationships for us to grow together and to do more healing together. That healing is not an easy place at times. But yeah, when we're having difficulties letting go and we're back into the overthinking mind, which is very common for us men, because we've been taught over the years to suppress that emotional, the heart of ourselves. We've been taught to suppress that because it's deemed as a weakness. If we're then back up into the thinking mind, overanalyzing, how do we stop and breathe? Yeah, how do we keep exploring the deeper levels of what we're overthinking? You know, maybe in that deeper level, our vulnerability has been triggered. It might be an old trauma, an old hurt, an old wound, and it's surfacing again. And when it's surfacing, we're not in a space to be able to let it go. Maybe it needs some healing. Rather than blame our partners or our friends or our parents or our children for triggering it, how do we take responsibility and, yeah, it's there again. Instead of blaming them, you know, that can be wasted energy. And it ends up, you know, we blame our partners and they'll blame us, and, you know, it's that prove-disprove argumentative space we get into. And instead of getting into that space, how can we men take time out and get into contact, become into contact with the emotional pain because it's surfaced? If there's an energetic charge to it where we're feeling a bit pissed off or a bit angry, all right, there's fuel in there. How do we go underneath the anger and connect to that fuel? Because the more we do that within ourselves, it does long-term provide incredible benefits in facilitating the ability to spiritually let go of the wound, to spiritually just let go. And in the letting go, that brings a deeper, profound sense of freedom within ourselves. It gives us that ability to open our hearts more to the deep well of unconditional love. And the letting go, it saves so much energy and time in our minds. The letting go, it's like being able to surrender, to have acceptance, to have gratitude for this moment. Yeah, it hasn't been easy, but we're noticing it. And rather than let it grind the gears, how do we breathe deeper into that unconditional love that exists deep down in our hearts to facilitate a deepening of the letting go, the acceptance, and having gratitude for this opportunity to bring this up into our consciousness. I'm not going to say it's an easy process. Sometimes when those wounds are there, it can feel like hell. The baptism of fire. Oh, here it is again. And it is hard to let go when it's like that. But the more we start to practice as men, moving from our overthinking minds down into our emotional mind and brain, we can learn to let go. And in letting go, that brings a greater peace to ourselves. And in that peace, we save so much energy. Be gentle and enjoy.